There's something about Jade Cargill's return at the Elimination Chamber that feels off, and I'm determined to figure out exactly what it is. After watching the event and digging into the details, I've come to the conclusion that there's a significant gap in the storytelling, a hole that demands discussion, attention, and a clear focus. Let's break it down step by step, because the more I think about it, the more questions I have about how this whole angle was handled. Jade Cargill had been absent from WWE television since mid-November, and her disappearance was tied to a mysterious attacker storyline that, frankly, was executed in a confusing and unsatisfying way. There was no clear explanation provided at the time, no build-up to suggest why she was suddenly gone. Prior to her absence, there were no reports of an injury, no hints that she was taking a break, and no indication that she was stepping away for any reason. Then, out of nowhere, she's shown laid out in the back of a parking lot, and she vanishes from programming entirely. The WWE teased various possibilities about who might have been responsible. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez were floated as suspects early on, given their own storylines and rivalries, but then the focus shifted to Naomi, who's been closely tied to Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair since Jade arrived in WWE. Naomi even stepped into Jade's shoes, partnering with Bianca Belair to become women's tag team champions after Jade's exit. That connection made her a plausible candidate, but the lack of clarity left fans guessing, and not in a good way. Fast forward to the Elimination Chamber event, which took place recently as of March 3, 2025. The show kicks off with a charged moment. Liv Morgan and Naomi are in the ring, squaring up, ready to battle it out for a chance to challenge Rhea Ripley for the Women's World title at WrestleMania. The crowd is buzzing, the stakes are high, and then Jade Cargill's music hits. She storms down to the ring with purpose, and the energy shifts immediately. Liv Morgan plays her role perfectly, selling the moment like Jade's about to unleash hell on her. It's a classic setup, the returning star targeting the heel who's been a thorn in everyone's side. You can almost feel the anticipation building for an epic showdown. But then the swerve happens. Instead of going after Liv, Jade turns her attention to Naomi. She lays Naomi out, effectively costing her the match and her shot at WrestleMania. The crowd reacts, the commentators sell the shock, and Jade stands tall as security escorts her away from ringside. Meanwhile, Naomi is stretchered out, playing up the severity of the attack as she's wheeled to the back and presumably off to a hospital. On the surface, it's a dramatic twist, a masterful bit of chaos that leaves you wondering what's next. The unknown elements leading up to this moment, Jade's absence, the mystery attacker angle, suddenly seem to pay off in a big way. But the more I think about it, the less it holds together. Here's where things start to unravel for me. Initial reports after Jade's disappearance suggested she was sidelined with an injury, with a timeline of at least 3 months. That made sense at the time. Wrestlers get hurt, and WWE often uses those real-life setbacks to fuel storylines. But then PW Insider, a reliable wrestling news source, contradicted that, claiming Jade wasn't actually injured. Instead, they said it was all part of an angle, and she'd been off TV for a mix of storyline purposes and personal time, maybe even a vacation. That didn't sit right with me. If she wasn't injured, why was she gone so long? And if she was, why the conflicting reports? Adding to the confusion, she was spotted training at the WWE Performance Center for about a month and a half during her absence, but no one explained why. Was she rehabbing? Preparing for a return? Just keeping in shape? The lack of transparency left a sour taste. Now, let's get to the Elimination Chamber return itself. Jade's attack on Naomi was a bold move, and it set up what could be a compelling feud heading into WrestleMania. The idea of Jade getting revenge on Naomi, who, in this hypothetical storyline, might have been the one who attacked her in the parking lot, writes itself. It's a classic tale of betrayal and retribution, especially given Naomi's history with Jade and Bianca. But then Triple H, WWE's creative head, spoke at the post-event press conference, and his comments threw everything into question. Here's what he said, paraphrased: "I know sometimes that seemed like an odd build or an odd storytelling the way it all went down over time. Sometimes it is very difficult to tell a story when you don't know the outcome that you have in front of you yet. Is she going to be back? Is she going to be back soon or really long? We don't have any answers. Each week you're kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit to see where you get. Luckily, she was able to come back when she did. Right now, we were able to get to that place we did tonight. I thought it was an incredible moment. So happy for her to be able to come back and do that. Excited to see where that leads with her and Naomi." That statement struck me as odd, really odd. To me, It heavily implies that Jade was indeed out with some kind of injury or issue. The phrases "you don't know the outcome" and "is she going to be back soon or really long" suggest uncertainty about her return timeline, which is language you'd use for someone recovering from something unpredictable, like an injury or illness. If that's the case, it would explain why WWE was kicking the can down the road week after week, stalling the storyline until they had clarity. But if she was injured, why didn't they just say so? And if she wasn't, why phrase it that way? Triple H's wording feels like a half-truth, a kayfabe-free admission that they were flying by the seat of their pants rather than executing a well-planned narrative. This brings me to my biggest issue. Why would WWE lean into a mystery attacker angle, a whodunit storyline, without a clear conclusion in mind? Triple H's comments suggest they didn't have a set attacker when they started this, which is baffling. He says they landed on Naomi because it all makes sense now. But does it? Not really. If the story was that Naomi attacked Jade out of jealousy, wanting her spot alongside Bianca Belair, craving the tag team titles, and resenting Jade's rise, it's a solid foundation. But the way Triple H describes it, it sounds like they stumbled into that resolution rather than building toward it intentionally. That's not storytelling, that's improvising. And in a press conference setting, where kayfabe is often dropped, just look at the rock-breaking character all the time. I expected more candor or at least a clearer explanation. So, what kept Jade sidelined? Was it an injury? An illness? A personal matter? Triple H's vagueness leaves us in the dark, and that lack of an endgame feels like a missed opportunity. This could have been a slam-dunk scenario. Jade gets hurt. WWE writes her off with the parking lot attack. Naomi's revealed as the culprit driven by envy, and Jade returns for revenge. It's simple, effective, and gives both women a strong arc heading into WrestleMania. Instead, we're left with a murky picture and a sense that WWE didn't know where they were going until Jade walked through the curtain at Elimination Chamber. Let's pivot to Naomi for a moment, because her role in this is just as critical. Since returning to WWE at the 2024 Royal Rumble, she's been in a strange spot. When she left WWE in 2022 alongside Mercedes Moné, then Sasha Banks, she was a women's tag team champion. She went to TNA, rechristened herself Trinity, and had a phenomenal run as Knockouts champion, one of the best stretches of her career, rivaling her standout work in WWE around 2016 to 2017. She returned to WWE with hype, but since then, she's felt directionless. Teaming with Bianca Belair and winning the tag titles again was a nice moment, but it didn't lead to anything substantial until now. This feud with Jade could be the spark she needs, a chance to redefine herself as a top-tier single star. Looking ahead, the pieces are starting to move. Bianca Belair and Naomi's tag team partnership is officially done, with Bianca heading to Monday Night Raw likely as soon as this week's episode post-Elimination Chamber. That leaves Jade and Naomi on SmackDown to carry this feud forward. The next steps seem obvious. Jade needs to address her return on TV, explaining her actions and confirming Naomi as her attacker, assuming that's the direction. Naomi, once she's back from her injury sustained at Elimination Chamber, needs to respond. Why did she do it? How did she pull it off? From there, WWE can announce their WrestleMania match, deciding whether it lands on night 1 or night 2. It's a straightforward path, but the execution will matter. If I'm booking this, here's how I see it playing out. Jade should go over Naomi at WrestleMania. She's a rising star with undeniable presence, and her return needs to feel like a statement. She already got some measure of revenge by costing Naomi the title shot, so you could argue Naomi could win to even the score, but I'd keep Jade strong. Have her dominate Naomi, cementing her as a force in the women's division. Post-Mania, Jade moves on as a single star. Naomi pivots to her own path, maybe a heel turn if she isn't already. And Bianca Belair, who's now on Raw, takes the women's world title from Rhea Ripley. That sets up all three women as major players coming out of WrestleMania season.